Welcome to the Just Business Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have a very special guest, owner of Addicted to Ink, Undiscovered Realm, the Westchester Tattoo Convention, the Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con, and many other things we'll get into. Yeah. So today I'd like to welcome onto the podcast Chris Wilcock.
Hello.
So, just getting started. Obviously, I mean, I've worked for both of your companies. I have, kind of been around them for a long time, but I wasn't there at the beginning. So I kind of want to hear, we can start with this, just a little bit of the backstory. If you want to go back into a little bit of personal detail on yourself, as far as you want to go back, let's start there.
Well, what do you want to know?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want, I mean, I know a lot of your business, or both of your businesses, are pretty heavily based in things that you enjoy. So if you want to talk about a little bit of your history in terms of, collectibles, things of that nature. First, I guess, let's talk about what you do now.
Sure. So, like you said, we have a couple stores: Undiscovered Realm, which is a collectible store in White Plains, and then Addicted to Ink Tattoos, which is a tattoo shop also in White Plains. And we run some conventions, but which are both based around the businesses, so they kind of bleed into each other. We do some other things here and there, t-shirts, what have you, but everything kind of all gels together. We started the tattoo shop in 2007 and Undiscovered Realm in 2011, I believe. And then a few years after that, we started doing the conventions. So it's been 16 years now, give or take. I've been doing stuff since I was a kid. When we were growing up, I didn't really have a lot of money, so not that I had nothing, but if I wanted extra stuff or if I wanted some extra money to go to the arcade or something, I'd always find, if there was a way to make some money, I would make some money. So I grew up in an apartment complex in Yonkers, and the maintenance guys wouldn't want to do the garbage, so they would literally just give me $5 to go around to every building and grab the garbage bags and bring them down. So I was 6, 7, I don't know, 8. I did this for years, and I would get $5, and I'd go to the arcade and live like a king for a couple of hours. And stuff like that, selling stuff for school. They had this sales program where you could sell items and then you would win prizes based on what you sold. And because I lived in an apartment complex, I had access to hundreds of apartments. So stuff like that. If there was something to do, sell candy, sell whatever, I would do it, make a couple extra bucks. And then started playing Magic the Gathering, which is a card game, in 1995 when I was 11. And the lifeguard at the pool in my apartment complex taught me and all the kids how to play. And then we all started playing. And so then I started going to Dragon's Den, which was a collectible store in Yonkers that was around for a long time. And that's basically, I was a really shy kid. So that's where I met most of my friends. And some of them I'm still friends with today. And, basically lived there. And we were there from open to close if we could be, if we weren't in school. And we always wanted to do something like that. And we always talked, even when we were kids, we talked about, hey, one day we could do this. And and then so that's what led to Undiscovered Realm ultimately, which we'll get to. But first came the tattoo shop, and I was working doing online I used to do phone modifications and Xbox and video game systems, change the cases, put in lights, mod them to play games you could download, all sorts of stuff. And I was doing that online, and I was making enough, not a ton of money, but enough to feed myself and buy stuff and basically not have to get a regular real job. And I graduated high school a little early. I was born in December, so I was already a little ahead age-wise, and then I graduated a little early. So I was 16, about to turn 17. I graduated. My parents were like, you have to get a job, even though I wasn't bothering them for anything, but just that's the way it's supposed to work. Supposed to go get a job. I started going to WCC, which is the community college here for computers, and because again they were like, you got to go do something. So I was doing that. I it's not that I didn't like it. I just it was easy. I knew how to do most of the stuff already, and I just found myself doing the work in 10 minutes and then sitting in class helping some of the foreigners and stuff that didn't know the computers as much. And so that's basically what I was doing. They were like, well, until you graduate, you got to find something. So my friend at the time was working at GameStop. He was the assistant manager, and he was like, just come in. Like, I can get you a job as like the entry level game advisor, which is what they call it. It's like the basic clerk. No problem. Come on in, and that'll keep your parents happy, and you can keep doing whatever you're doing on the side. And so I did that, and it just so happened that the district manager was there that day, and he interviewed me personally, and he was like, "Oh, you're doing all these video game things, and you have your own business," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And he's like, "No, we're gonna move you right into manager and training." And I actually got hired over my friend and became his boss, which was kind of silly because he was next in line. And manager in training is supposed to like mirror the manager. You work their exact schedule. You learn how to do everything for at least three or 4 months. And then if a store opens up, they'll give you a store to manage. And you have to do it for 3 months, they told me, no matter what. But then like 6 weeks later, a store opened up and they were like, we need you to go to this store. So I really applied for this like basic level job and ended up being a manager of a store in 6 weeks. Right. So while I was doing that, I started getting tattooed. I was about 18 or 19 at the time, I guess. So I started getting tattooed, and I was going to this place called Asylum, also in Yonkers. And two of the artists there were Mikey and Kesh, who are my partners at Addicted Inc. now. So I started going there, and I was going there with my friend Lou, who was the one who told me to come to GameStop. And they were good artists. They were doing a good job. None of the other artists working there were very good. They were causing a lot of mistakes, and Mikey and Cash would have to fix them. The owner was not the nicest guy in the world, and it was more like get these tattoos done as fast as possible, and so we can get more in instead of like focusing on the quality and art and the things that are important in a tattoo. And we would, while we were sitting there for hours getting tattooed, we would talk and kind of the same thing, like, hey, maybe one day, why don't you guys open your own shop? And they would express the reasons why and blah blah blah. And it seemed like myself and Lou kind of filled the holes of where the gaps were and what they needed to open a business. And then they obviously had the talent and the skill set and the knowledge of the industry. And it just kind of made sense, and we joked about it. And then one day, I don't remember the specifics, but we just kind of were like, fuck it, let's do it. And we did. And we did it on like the most shoestring of budgets. I still to this day, I don't know how we did it, but here we are 16 years later.
Right. So let's just pause there. I think the reason, I know it's hard to like distill 20 years of stuff into like 10-minute summary. Sure. But the reason I do think it is important for you to kind of explain that to people is just because a lot of the things that you've done in business and the businesses that you've started, I think heavily revolve around the things that you enjoy as a person. Sure. And having that inspiration to do that is kind of different to what traditionally people are taught to do in business. Because, like, for example, when I was in school, all my business professors essentially said the way you start a business is you find a problem and then you make a solution for it. And I think you took a little bit of a different route, and I think it's worked out for you to some extent so far. So yeah, I mean, obviously still growing, but I think it's important for people to understand that while, yes, I mean, it might not necessarily be wrong to find a problem and create a solution and then that's your business, you can also start a business in a different way. Like if there's something you enjoy, that's definitely a way.
That's a good point. I mean, it's definitely maybe a mix of the two. Like more something we enjoyed. We did in a way find a hole and fix it because for them. Yeah. Because there wasn't like a high quality shop in the area. Well, there were shops. I don't want to like talk shit about other shops. It's not that. Yeah. But at this time, you got to remember, this is like, I know it doesn't sound like forever ago, 16 years, but at this time, it was pre like Miami Ink and LA Ink and Ink Master. None of this stuff existed. So like we were on the cusp of like, these modern tattoo shops that everybody knows. They were like these sterile white walls with just flash that had been sitting on the wall for like 20 years, and that was just what it was. And still, people had this like mentality of like bikers and so we kind of did see a hole in a way, and we wanted to like kind of modernize it and things like that. But as far as the collectibles and stuff, it was something I was really into tattoos at the time. which all my tattoos are basically stuff that I grew up on and like 80s and 90s pop culture stuff and cartoons and it all kind of feeds into the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely think that you could do that and start a business where you find a hole and fill it, but like if you don't have a passion behind it, it's kind of you're just going through the motions, and I don't think running a business is really hard. It's really tough. There's a lot of days where you're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can factor in all the hours you're working. You're better off going and cooking fries at McDonald's, when you average it out. So you really have to have that like passion and love for what you're doing in some way. So I think that's really key.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's also important because it shows something. I think specifically just being around you and having that experience, like watching you run your businesses, it kind of takes away, like it peels back that veneer of there's like this glamorized idea of what it means to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, where everybody's like, oh, you just start a business and I make $1 million a week and I just text on my phone all day, and it's like that's not really what it
No.
takes. And I think you have an interesting perspective in that sense, in really like peeling back the curtain, showing people exactly what it takes to run a business.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that's what they do, but they're like the 1% of the 1%. Like most businesses fail. I mean, I don't know what the statistic is. I know it's not good. Most of them fail pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's like within, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's like a very high percentage fail within the first year, and then like more than half of them fail within 3 years.
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's really hard, and there's a lot of stuff like you really learn as you go. Like paying taxes and insurance and workers' comp and disability and like it never ends. And like the thing I always try to instill into people is like you think like there's these problems that are like like a black swan event where like it's like once in your lifetime of running a business this thing's gonna happen, but this stuff happens constantly. A pipe explodes, a mouse chews a wire, sets your alarm off, kills the electric. Outside, like I said, floods, fire, like you name it, it's happened. And it's crazy. And then, never mind stuff that nobody can predict, like a pandemic and stuff. It's just the daily ins and outs are crazy. There's days where I just spend my entire day moving stuff around. It's like, all right, well, I don't have to pay this today because these people won't care for another month. So I can take that money and pay this thing that's like impending, and it's going to shut down if I don't pay it and blah, 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 blah. And it's a lot of stuff like that people don't see. And you take that home with you. You don't like clock out Friday at 5:00 and go home for the weekend. And then you're like, oh, it's Monday at 9. It's time to worry about this again. This is 24/7. If it's 3:00 in the morning, you might still be working. You might be laying in bed just thinking about like, how am I going to solve this problem? This is a thing, and it's not just you. You have a whole staff you got to worry about, payroll, making sure. It's just crazy. And at the end of the day, if there's only so much money to go around, like you are the one who's not going to get paid. So then you have to evolve your life around that as well, and that's difficult. And and it cascades into everything. If you have a partner, they need to understand that, and that your job never ends, and you're on call 24/7, and maybe you're not going to get paid for a couple weeks, and if you have a child, then you have to worry about that, and this affects all areas of your life. It's like a lifestyle. It's not a business necessarily.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last podcast with my mom, Jackie. We were just talking about it, same as you were saying, like. For people who want to get into business and start a business, like you really do need to understand that idea that it will become a part of your life. There is no separate schedule. It's like you can set boundaries where you can kind of, take time for yourself, but at the same time, you will either subconsciously or consciously be on the clock like 24/7.
Yeah, some people are better at it than others, but like and even now I don't really do it. I was forced to because I had a son, but like. So I have to dedicate some days where it's just him. But even then, like if something goes haywire, I've got to fix it. Like I can't just be like, oh, deal with it later. So, but it took 15 years to get to that point, and even then, it's barely that, and it took 15 years of 80 hours to 100-hour weeks on average, just to get to a point where it's. You could have 1 or 2 days where maybe, which everybody else in the world just takes for granted because they have their weekends or whatever their schedule is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, definitely. But ultimately, I think kind of just going back to the beginning in your backstory, working at GameStop and then making that transition to running your own business with
Yeah.
Addicted to Ink, you did ultimately make that transition. So, what was at the time? What was your mindset there in terms of starting the tattoo shop? Why did you want to get away from working like a corporate job or something like that to your own business?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I don't know. I guess it seemed cool. And again, it was like something that I cared about a little more. And for all the crap GameStop gets, like, I didn't mind that job that much. Like I worked, I got to hire all my friends. Like everyone I worked with was my friend. We were working hard, but we were hanging out at the same time. So
Hmm.
it wasn't like I was like slaving away and miserable by any means. I guess it just doing it yourself. There was something to it, and I had always kind of had all my own little businesses, like I said, and I guess this was just like the next evolution of it, but also like legitimate. Like, it's like a storefront and a retail business and like
Yep.
something that people consider a real job, not,
Yeah.
just selling stuff on the internet.
So it's like that payoff because I feel similar too. There is a certain sense of pride or achievement that you do get when you do have a business and something works and you're like, oh, holy shit, like that actually worked and I did that.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah, no, it is.
rewarding.
It is really rewarding and it feels great. It gets kind of watered down by the 50 other ones where you're like dreading everything.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't mean to be negative. I just want to be realistic. Like,
yeah, definitely.
um, I don't want to paint this picture of people like, yeah, you do it and then it's all downhill once you get. No, it's like it is a roller coaster and
Hmm.
there's just peaks and valleys every single day, every week, every month,
Yeah,
and probably for the rest of time. Like, you can't you can't change how outside sources affect your business. Like I said, pandemics or like supply chain issues and costs. Like, right now costs of everything's through the roof and we can't just keep raising our prices. So it is it's, you got to figure stuff out.
yeah, it affects everything. Let's talk a little bit. I mean, obviously, we've mentioned the tattoo shop, Addicted to Ink in White Plains. You then, after a few years of running that, decided to open up Undiscovered Realm. So, what was some of the inspiration for that, and just starting a second
Sure,
business?
yeah. So like I said, I grew up playing Magic, which is a card game. You hang out with everybody. You're playing for hours and hours and hours. It was kind of a sense of community, somewhere to go. Like if we weren't in school, that's where we were, especially on the weekends. And over the years, that's a really, really rough industry. And the internet really made it even an already rough industry 10 times harder to operate in because the margins got so thin, and it's really hard to run a store like that if it's your main source of income. Almost impossible, to be honest. So over time, all the stores that were like that anywhere around here closed, and there was nothing left. We were going over the bridge, over to Rockland to play Magic every weekend, and it was a cool store and it was great, but it was just out of the way, and there was nothing in Westchester, which is such a huge area, and we were like, this is crazy. We've been talking about this forever. It was another one of those things where we're like, hey, let's just do it.
Right.
And at this point I felt a little more confident because we had the tattoo shop and, I knew enough about what you have to do to open and things like that. As far as collectibles go, I had been not only playing Magic since I was little, but then I started collecting toys and figures, and I started selling on eBay as soon as it opened. I think it was like 1997, 1998.
Right.
I mean, like day one, I was selling stuff on eBay.
And you
So,
always say like those were like the wild wild west.
oh, it
Days
was
of eBay.
crazy. Yeah, you could sell anything you wanted. There was no rules. You could. They would be like after 3 months, they'd be like, "Hey, can you send us your money that you owe us?" And you would just open another account. Like I had accounts under like every celebrity name I could think. Like I would just open a new account because there was no feedback yet. There was no anything. They didn't track anything, and there wasn't PayPal. You would just get money orders in the mail. So like you could like theoretically sell tons of stuff and just never send it out, and there was no recourse. Like it's really crazy that it ended up being the juggernaut that it is now. But
Right.
so anyway, I had experience in all these areas my whole life. And so it was time to do it. So once again, we started with the most insane string budget. I again don't know how we pulled this off. And then myself and my partner Ralph, we put in all our own collections of Magic cards so that we would be able to fill the cases and have something to start off with. And we had two other partners, John and Mike from the tattoo shop, who were like more minority partners and kind of silent because they don't know that industry as well. but they put some capital in. But again, I'm talking like we have bills every week that are, you know, the same or double what we started the entire store with at this point.
Right.
And it was nothing. And we really got lucky because we had so many friends that we built up over the years playing Magic, going to these stores, that when we opened, they all came to us. Right. And,
well, that speaks to kind of what I was mentioning before in terms of like, yes, you can find the problem, and you did find the problem of just there was a lack of accessibility in your local community for playing that game, and just collectibles in general. But essentially, what I was saying is like, yes, you found the problem, but because you were so invested in that game and in collectibles in general, you had like this built-in customer base essentially, and friends. So there is an advantage to kind of, you know, having some interest in the thing that you want to play.
Yeah, for sure. Because without that, like, we would have never been able to survive probably even a month.
Right.
You know, we got lucky because, and it was honestly, had we done it any later, I don't think it would have worked either because everybody was just perfect timing. People were coming. We were playing all night. Like, there was so many days where people were playing tournaments and cards and literally till the sun came up. And, you know, you flash forward even 5 years and people started getting married, having kids, doing where that wasn't as possible. So I really think even like a year or two later, and it would have not been able to succeed. Right. And I'm talking like, you know, when I say shoestring, like there would be times where, you know, we would make $200 at the end of the month, and, you know, we would just take that $200 and buy $200 more product and then roll that over month. And, you know, we're going 11 years now. And to be honest, like, you know, we're a big store. We do tons of conventions. We do all this stuff. And it, you know, you don't really get a chance to step back and realize sometimes because you're just so involved and stuck in the roller coaster of it all. But it's crazy to think like that all happened from like doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. And yeah, it's just.
And I'd also give you credit too, because I've seen how you've adapted the store and your like product offerings over time too. Obviously, you mentioned like it was very Magic heavy, and I remember going into UR like in the earlier days where it was a lot of Magic cards and a lot of like Dunnies and designer vinyl. But now you've kind of, if you go into the store now, you see a lot more options in terms of like pops and all that stuff.
Yeah, we got really lucky with pop. Like I saw those early on, and I hated them. Because I came from the designer vinyl world, and the pops were just cheap knockoffs and like $10 and looked like crap, honestly. And you know, but slowly over that year, I started to see them get a little better in quality. They got more licenses, and they made stuff that didn't exist for other toys and stuff like that. And I was like, oh well, now I have to buy these because, you know, it doesn't exist. And I was like, you know what, these are pretty cool, and I think these are going to do really well. And we got in really early. So they started in 2011, and we started probably early 2012. And we were, you know, there when it exploded. It became the biggest collectible in the world, and we were able to ride that, you know, tide basically and stay on top of it, and kind of that's what put us on the map. So, you know, a lot of right place, right time. You know, a lot of, I guess, seeing the writing on the wall too. But
yeah, how do you attribute that? Like,
I don't know. I really, you know, I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, the universe is just gonna, you know, and fate. But like sometimes I look back and I go, every time there was like some dire situation, something came through, and a lot of that's just tenacity because I'll sit there for 20 hours straight just trying to figure this out.
Right.
And like waters every option, you know, instead of just putting my head in the sand and going, we're screwed, like we're gonna close tomorrow, you know.
Right.
And so it's a little of both, but like I really think like at the end of the day, somebody's looking down and like just you know, smiling on me. But yeah, I really think it's just tenacity. Like you have to power through, and just if there's a problem, you got to figure out a way to fix it. But I don't know. I guess. Going back to what you're saying, though, like being involved in it and being something that you're passionate about, you're going to know the product.
That's true.
If you're just a guy that comes in and you're like, oh, these pops are pretty popular, I'm going to order them, you're going to be done because you're not going to know which ones to order. You're going to, you know, and that's another thing in that same vein that you have to be careful of because you can't just order what you like either. Like, I use this example all the time. There's this show, Silicon Valley on HBO. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's great. And it was kind of a niche show. I love it. If they made pops for it, they didn't sell very well. Like if I was like, oh, this is the best show ever, let me order 1,000 of these things, we would have been, you know, been broke. So you have to still have like a mindset of what the general public wants, but you really need to be knowledgeable of the product.
Definitely. And I know you use a lot of the other resources in terms of just like asking other people like what they're interested in. I know, Carlos obviously is very heavily involved. He likes anime and stuff like that, so you can kind of rely on
Yeah,
some of
I
that
will
for
say
information.
like it's a key thing I would say in business overall. If I had to give somebody advice like starting out, like make sure the people you're working with and especially your partners and stuff like that can contribute in some way because yeah, maybe it's just monetarily and that's great. But like if they have knowledge that they can share, whether it be they ran a business before, they've been around these things, or they know about a product like what you just said. Like I don't watch anime at all. I don't know anything. It's the biggest thing in the world right now, and it's been for years, but now bigger than ever. One of the main guys that works at the store, Carlos, that's what his favorite thing is. So like I can turn to him and be like, hey, how popular is this character? How's blah blah blah. Otherwise, I'd be ordering blind, and I might have 1,000 of this character that appeared in one episode and nobody cares about.
Right.
So it's really, really, really important that you have that. If you can surround yourself with a team of people that can contribute, and either knowledge, money, connections, whatever, that's really, 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 really important. Because if you go in with somebody that's like you're going to work 100 hours a week and they're going to work the bare minimum, they're going to be like, well, I worked, 6-7 hours today. I'm out. It's over. Even though there's 400 things left to do, it's just not going to work. And it's going to stifle your growth and it's going to stifle what you can do. And if you have a team that, is in the same mindset as you, it makes such a difference.
Right.
So that's, the most important knowledge I can pass on, I guess.
What do you think the importance is? I mean, obviously, you're speaking highly of having just like a team for your business. What do you think the importance is of having specifically partners in a business is? Do you think it's totally necessary or something that could potentially be done without too?
Yeah, I mean, it can be. I like having partners at this stage in the game. See, it's so weird because like I can't talk for 16 years ago and now because it's two different things. Like now, yeah, I could totally do something by myself and figure it out, and I know where to get funding, and I know But
Right.
when you're starting out, it's scary,
Mm-hmm.
and having other people to do it with you really does take a lot of that off. It's like you rise together, you fall together, and I think it is important, unless you even if you have all the money in the world and you think you know the knowledge, like having other people there really does make a difference. In my case, like it was essential because we needed the budgeting, everybody had to chip in together. B, we needed people that were knowledgeable in other areas that I wasn't, Lou wasn't. We all brought something to the table, literally,
Right.
and it all gelled into a very good unit. But even when we were building the place out, because we were starting with such a little unit, we would sleep there. Myself and Mike, especially, like we were there 20 hours a day, sometimes 24 hours a day. When we were building the tattoo shop, we tore the place apart. It was like an old blind and tile and carpet place. And so there was like 10 different blinds on every foot of the wall. Every tile on the floor was a different tile for displays. Mountain like 10 feet of carpet samples everywhere. Like it took us a solid month just to get rid of all the garbage. And so we were staying there. We bought like one couch. We bought a microwave with like whatever little money we had, and we would go to like the Stop and Shop down the street and put frozen meals in the thing and then microwave them and eat them, fall asleep on the couch, wake up, start working again, like literally 24/7. And even the people, speaking of like people helping you, like we had all our friends coming in, like when they could, they would come help us load the van up with garbage. My friend Mark, his dad had a catering business with a vans, so he would bring a van by so we didn't have to rent one. We'd fill that up with garbage. We'd go back to the old GameStop because I still had the key to the compactor, and we'd throw all the garbage in the compactor. Like it took a village, and
Right.
so I think it is important because even if you have all these resources, you're not going to have all the connections yourself. You're not going to have all these things. I think maybe if it's your second or third or fourth business, yeah, by all means do it without partners if you
Right.
can. But starting out, it's really important, I think, and it's situational,
Yeah.
But
Well, I think it's specifically important, like you said, in a situation where you don't have unlimited resources because you have now a second or a third person to contribute, financially or whatever, but you also have that labor. I mean, obviously, the most expensive part of most businesses is going to be labor for employees.
yeah, especially these days,
So
yeah.
So yeah, having owners who are going to basically be willing to work for free because they're hoping one day it pays off
Yeah,
is
exactly,
definitely it's a
exactly.
Kickstarter.
Because they have that end goal where like if it does pay off, it's good for them. Whereas like a worker is just getting their check and they're going home.
Right.
So yeah, it is really important. But again, it's really important that they have that same drive as you because again, if I was sleeping there 24/7
Yeah.
and one of the other guys was like, "Oh, I worked for 4 hours. I'm going home to
Yeah.
watch TV," it doesn't work, and it can cause a lot of issues. You could have people start getting resentful. You could have people not feeling like the work is divided equal, and you're poisoning the well before you even start. So there's no way of knowing sometimes, until you go in. You could think like, oh, I'm with somebody that's going to work just as hard as me, and then when
People say things and
yeah,
then
and then when their feet are to the fire,
right.
that's when you really see what people are made of and what they're going to do. So but there's pluses and minuses to it, just like everything. But it definitely helps.
And a lot of your partners have been friends first, obviously.
Yeah,
So what would you say? How has that impacted that? Do you think it's for
it's
the
good and
positive,
bad
better?
because
Yeah.
like it can affect your friendships. And again, like I said, if somebody's doing a quarter of the work or something, it could get resentful. It could affect relationships. I try to avoid that and just keep things business. But it's hard. It's gonna bleed in,
Yeah.
and it also changes things. Just in general, like if you had a good time sitting down and playing Magic with your friends, and now it's a business for all you guys, it kind of takes the joy out of that too. You got to be careful because when you turn your hobbies into businesses, it's not enjoyable anymore most of the time. It
Yeah.
becomes work. And so I think it's cool when you have friends because it makes certain things easier. But again, it can damage the relationships where if you just had an outside person, that's not as much of an issue. But at the same time,
Yeah.
that outside person's probably just looking at, dollars and pennies, and that's all they care about, where they're not going to understand. And, or a friend might
Yeah.
be able to lean on a little harder. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a mix. I agree with what you said there. I know like last time my mom said the typical the saying is if you find what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And to a certain extent, I think that there's some truth to that. But also as you were saying, it's like you can take what you love and if you make it a job, it's going to be a job. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
going
mean, it's
to
better than
it's going to be
like, I'd
work.
rather be looking at toys all day, even if it's moving boxes and
Right.
shipping. It's, than staring at dog treats or something,
Hmm.
like, or like whatever job you're going to go do.
It's more
Um,
tolerable. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
say that
more
you're not working
tolerable.
at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's still work, but there is something to be said about that. That is true. But it's if it's something you enjoyed doing to begin with, you're definitely going to enjoy it a lot less. Like it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the most fun and entertaining thing in the world. If you're doing it every day and it's something that brings stress now because of bills and things like it's going to take that enjoyment away in
Exactly.
some capacity anyway.
Right. So we've talked a little bit also about how you've kind of adapted Undiscovered Realm, in terms of the products that you offer. But I've
Yeah.
also had, just being around the shop and everything, I know that you've also adapted in terms of how you sell. Specifically, like the first thing I want to talk about is just doing the conventions. So was that something that you guys kind of set out to do at the beginning when you opened the store? Or was it something that just kind of developed after the fact, like
Um
vending at conventions?
I mean, we would go to conventions as fans, so I guess I wouldn't say that was something we sought out to do, but it was definitely on the radar. Um, I quickly saw that it was probably a good way to move product a lot faster because, like, if you're at the store, yeah, you can sell stuff, but you're dealing with whoever walks through the door that day. Where if you go to a convention, you have thousands, sometimes tens and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Um, and it's another one of those things where I look back and I'm like, I don't know how this happened because we did a show. I want to say we started doing conventions maybe like 2 years in when we finally had enough product to fill the store, but we didn't have any back stock. We didn't have anything like, sometimes now we get 500, 1,000 of the same pop in. And like, then if we got 6 of the same pop, we were like, holy shit, like we made it. This is crazy. I can't believe we have to put a box in the back room. But we finally had enough stock to fill the store. So I was like, all right, like we could probably, there was a local show and we went to it. We brought like everything. It was way too much stuff, but it was good because it let us work out like how to set up and do all these things. And our second show ever, or maybe our third show ever, So we did this local show, like literally down the street at like a community center. Then we did a toy show in New Jersey, which was cool, and we saw a little bit of success there. And then because we grew up going, well, not grew up, but we were going to New York Comic Con as fans. I was like, hey, maybe we could do New York Comic Con, and I called them. And I was really naive and just assuming we could get into New York Comic Con. It's like the biggest show in the country at this point, maybe second, but nonetheless, gigantic show. And I call up, and the guy's like, "Hey, who's this?" And I said, "Hey, my name's Chris. I'm calling from this store. We're kind of local." And he's like, "Oh, where do you live?" And I'm like, "Yonkers." And he's like, "Oh, I live in Yonkers my whole life." And he's like, "You know what? Like, I'll find a spot for you. Don't worry. I got a spot on this back wall. Is that cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like I'm happy to get anything." And it ended up being great because it was in the back walls between pillars. So instead of being 2 booths, we actually got 2.5 booths, which no other space on the show floor had. And it really, once again, like luck kind of struck, and it enabled us to have a back stock area and set up our booth like we wouldn't have been able to do if we had any other space on the floor. And now there's like a huge waiting list to get in New York Comic. Even like the next year, like we got so lucky that we got in.
Right.
But it's just funny that like we literally went into the fire, and but it was successful. We sold like every product we had. Like the store had like 2 things left on the shelf afterwards. And
for people who don't understand like the magnitude of what you're talking about either, you're talking about like a local community college or a community center show with what, maybe like a couple hundred or maybe 1,000 people at the show.
maybe like 100 people.
Yeah, 100. You went from like 100 people at
to
the show
100,000.
Yeah, to literally 100,000.
It's like if you went from your little league game to like the super, or to like the World Series.
Yeah.
Like no exaggeration. It was just crazy. And it worked, and we started building up a reputation, and we took all that money, and then we bought more product. And again, another key I want to say here is like, if I wasn't already like being able to get a small paycheck from the tattoo shop and at least pay my rent and food, I would have never been able to like succeed at the other store because I was able to not draw a salary. I mean, I don't think I even took $1 for maybe the first like 9 or 10 years, like almost the whole time,
Right.
because I just would rather see the store succeed. And it was never going to grow if that was the case. Right. So these things all kind of coalesce with each other. So when you see people opening like multiple businesses, don't just assume that they're able to do all these things, because they're probably all able to work off each other.
Yeah, you have to sacrifice something, and I think that's important too, because obviously there's exceptions to this, but
Yeah.
a lot of people look at like a big company, like a corporate company, and they're like, how could that founder take so much money? And like what you don't see necessarily is that there was 10 15 years of no paycheck before they even got a single dime, and they took that risk, and that's part of it. Now, to some extent, you could probably argue the other side where it's like, well, now they're taking way too much.
Well, that's an extreme. Yeah, but
right.
You're right.
But for the small business
maybe
owner,
not. I mean, like, this is the thing people have to remember, and it's like, and I'm bad with this too, because like I struggle with like, even if I take a day off now, I'm like, oh, I feel bad, like I'm taking a day off. But I don't think about the 80, 100-hour weeks where I work 7 days a week for over a decade straight. To be able to take a day off, right. And it's the person doing this is taking on all the stress, all the risk. Like I get it when like sometimes workers, they'll look like, oh, he's just sitting at a desk, or not me, but just the boss.
Yeah,
like he's not doing anything. He's playing golf. But like again, like you said, you don't see what they had to do, or what they had to risk, or what stress, or what relationships got destroyed, or what they sacrificed, behind the scenes to get to that point. And it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be 30 years at that point that they're finally getting to do these little things that, you take for granted, because like I said, you clock out Friday at 5:00 and you don't have to think about anything. So, all that stress that's coming home with you, like you really, until you do it, you really truly have no idea.
Right.
And if somebody's doing their job properly in that aspect, a lot of times it's going to look like they're not doing anything, because that's their job. Like, you're not supposed to have hiccups. You're supposed to make everyone else's job be able to run. Right. And that's the key.
It's like a professional athlete. Like you see a really good baseball player like Aaron Judge or something take a swing and it looks effortless, and he hits a ball 500, 400 feet. It's like, but what you didn't see was the 300 swings he took in like in the bullpen before the
Yeah,
game, and
or
all
the
of the and
gym,
the
or
20 years
the
of practice and
yeah,
all of that
exactly.
stuff leading up to that swing. You don't see that. So
Yeah.
just
No, I think that's one of the most important things that you could ever like try to explain to somebody from outside, because you
right.
do not see any of that. And
Yeah.
and like I said, not to be like a dick, but it's like at a certain point, if you think you can do it, go do it.
Yeah.
Like
I
don't sit there and just talk shit and be like, "Oh, I would do this and I would do it," because you're not. Like
right.
if you were doing it, you'd be doing it. So
Exactly. And nothing's stopping it. I mean,
yeah,
obviously some people have, certain whatever your situation is, but for the most part, like it is hard to say like something is limiting you when I look at like how you started your business with just a couple $1,000s. Like you're
yeah. I mean, like
really
I did have like again like a network of friends and stuff like
right.
that, and people that I did a ton of favors for over the
Right.
years that I cashed in. And, so you can't truly do it by yourself. Nobody's
No,
doing anything by
yeah, that's not what
themselves.
I'm saying.
No, I know what you are saying
Yeah.
though, but you can do it. Like it was just purely like I'm gonna do this, and like even if I'm die trying, I'm gonna do it,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna fail. But like there's gonna be no in between, and at least if I fail, I know like I put 110% into it. So you can do it. So it's like shit or get off the pot, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because I know, especially like today online and stuff, you see a lot of people complaining about businesses. And again, for large corporations, it is kind of a different conversation. But especially when you're like looking at small businesses,
Yeah.
you really can't critique them at all. Like if you see somebody in a small business running a small business or even a medium sized business, it's like you don't know what it took to get there. And even at that point, you're still not at a point where you're like financially safe or anything. And one
never
fuck
is.
up could
Yeah,
literally
it
ruin your
never
whole
is.
business.
And like you don't even realize like you file a tax payment late, like it's like thousands of dollars fines.
Right.
There was like one time where like we were starting, and like I had to allocate the money around, so it was like we're starting out, things are tight. It's like pay the rent, pay your employees, or pay this tax. And like I was like, well, if I don't have employees or rent, like we can't generate any more money, so I got to pay. And then like they'll come after you. They're like, well, you signed it, so you get a $15,000 fine, because you're the person who signed it and didn't pay the taxes. So it's like, there's all this stuff that people don't think about, and it's really crazy and scary. Like, you really gotta be on top of this shit.
Definitely. And just talking about things that happen and stuff that's totally out of your control that you just have to deal with. Obviously, the most recent thing has been the pandemic,
Yeah.
in which I saw another adaptation in your business, specifically Undiscovered Realm, with you taking things online and expanding into that venture. So could you speak a little bit to
Sure.
how you did that?
I was thinking about this like 2 days ago. Oddly enough, I was thinking like, like I don't mean to make light of the pandemic. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people lost their lives, and it caused chaos, and so many businesses went under and stuff like that. Right. It was a really sad time in history. But I was thinking, for me, luckily no one I knew really got ultra sick. I never even got COVID, and I was thinking like, wow, like it really did help the businesses a lot, even though it hurt in a lot of ways. But speaking to what you said about adapting, when we were pre-COVID, our primary business was in person and doing conventions. So that all went away, obviously. And I was sitting there. I remember sitting at home and just being like, everyone's like, oh, this is going to be 2 weeks. We're going to be back open. We're going to do this. And I'm like, I don't think that's the case. I sat home for the first week of maybe 10 days of the pandemic. And I was like, this isn't going away. We're going to go out of business very quickly if we don't figure this out. And we had a website and we were doing some online sales, but it wasn't our focus. So I was like, all right, I think it's going to be a long time before anything comes back. Let's figure this out. I sat there. I rebuilt the entire website from scratch. Because we were selling stuff in person, all the pops and stuff like that, the condition's really important. People care about the boxes. When you're selling in person, they can look at it and say, all right, this one's a little dinged up. I don't want this one. Online, you can't really do that. And I knew as a collector that, I can't just put them all online and just ship out whatever. So we had to go in and like grade every item we had. We had to empty out the trailer, empty out our van, empty out the store backstock, go through everything and assign grades. And we didn't have a system for this yet. So I'm like, all right, we got to figure this out. So we developed like a tier of different conditions with different price points, had to work that into the website, get the website set. So I spent like probably 2 weeks during the pandemic. You were working there at the time,
Yep.
and Carlos. It was basically just the three of us, and we also were living in the same house at that point. So we were in the same bubble, COVID bubble, basically. So we were able to still work because we weren't like cross contaminating and going
Right.
from household to household. So it actually was once again a perfect storm.
Yeah.
So we developed all this, and I sat there. You and Carlos basically did a lot of the grading, and I built the website, and we did everything. And everybody started shopping from home, and we were there. I wish we were a week earlier, but whatever. We were there, and our online sales went through the roof. We actually ended up selling probably 3-4 times what we ever did once the pandemic started. So we went through like the worst month we've ever had as a company, and then all of a sudden, boom. And then once they started giving out like the stimulus checks and stuff like that, everybody just decided to buy toys and collectibles with the stimulus money. It was crazy. Right. So it actually probably saved the business in a lot of ways, the pandemic. And then the tattoo shop, that was brutal because you can't sell tattoos on the internet. Yeah. We couldn't do anything. Thankfully, the government programs came and allowed everyone to get a paycheck while they were out of business. And I was able, behind the scenes, to start looking. Our lease was coming up, and we needed more space. And I was able to find a location that had been sitting there and use the pandemic to negotiate. Not a great rate. We pay a lot of rent, but much better than it was. Right. And it would have been pre-pandemic. And then, renovate and do everything we had to do. So we were able to come out of the pandemic with a brand new, beautiful studio, bigger and better than ever. So it was a ton of work. I was only off for maybe a week the entire pandemic while people were sitting home for 4 or 5 months on vacation. I was working more than I ever did. But it was worth it, and so we actually came out of it ahead, which is still crazy to me. Not without it's, we're still playing catch up and paying off bills and all these pandemic loans and stuff. That's a whole other story.
But it does speak to, just once again, that ability to adapt and that tenacity, not just sitting there and like a lot of people did. Like when the pandemic hit, it's like, oh well, we can't go anywhere, so I'm just not going to do anything, and I'm just going to sit home and that's it. And I guess either my businesses are fucked or whatever. It's important, right? Like having, as a business owner, being somebody who's looking for solutions constantly, like whether it was all the way back when, you saw an opening for conventions or even going into the pandemic with online, it's just totally important.
Yeah, I think it's really, really, really important. You never rest on your laurels and you're always thinking, right, how can I improve this? How can I do that? Even when like the whole world's on fire, like, it's important because, like I said earlier, if you just stick your head in the sand and freak out or have a breakdown, you're not going to fix the problem and it's over. So, sometimes things are out of your control, but you got to work hard and just stay on top of it. You really do. And I think if I had to pick any one thing, that's the key to longevity and surviving all this. It's that. It's like, it sounds cheesy, like never give up, blah, 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 but never give up until your last breath. Like, I mean, we could talk for hours and I could tell you stories about like all these things that have gone wrong that I've had to deal with and figure out. Even this week, like it still happens. But you know what? I figure it out, and that's the key.
Yep, definitely. And I think, obviously there's a lot of things that are unpredictable in business, things that you can control. But how do you manage the things you can control in terms of, setting goals? Is that something you do frequently or not so much?
Yeah, I have like, I guess, evolving goals. I try to have a list. And you find a system that works for you, I guess. Everybody's different. There's no way to just be like, do this because your brain is going to work different than someone else's. But I have like a hierarchy, I guess. I know what needs to get done and it changes, like from, red to green. If I had to make an analogy, like, all right, this can be done anytime this week. It's got to get done. If this doesn't get done today, like we're going to be in real big trouble, type of things. And that's basically what I do. And sometimes it changes. You'll wake up and you'll be like, today's a pretty light day. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. It happens all the time. Like I dread looking at my phone every day because like there's inevitably some email that's a problem. There's a text message that's a problem. There's this. You got to answer all these instant messages and direct messages, and
A lot of fires to put out.
yeah, there's always fires to put out, but you got to pick which one.
Right.
It's like you can let the little one burn for a day or two, and deal with it later. That's key too, because it gets overwhelming, and I'm not a person that gets overwhelmed very easily. That's probably like my best trait, I'd say, is like I work best under pressure. That's why I like doing conventions and stuff like that, because like I'm at my best when there's 100 people online in front of me, or the pressure's on.
Yep.
But you really have to be able to prioritize. I will say, I think my secret is this: I try to think about, all right, this is what we got to do. This is everything I can think of that can go wrong. And this is what I'm going to do if this happens, if B happens, if C happens, and just have a plan for every single thing. And then inevitably one of those things is going to happen if you truly thought of, every possible scenario. And you're ready to go. So it's not like I see a lot of people, they're like, all right, this fire just came up. What do I do? And they spend an hour sitting there like,
right.
Where I'm like, all right, this is plan D. Let's do it.
Right.
And you do this, you do this, you do this, bang. And we get it done.
And not to cut you off
Yeah.
there, but I do think it's kind of funny you brought up like fire and this whole, I don't know if you've seen it recently, but Billy McFarland, the creator of Firefest, yeah, like he got out of prison and he's back on like doing the media route and whatever, and he was on like CNN and a couple other like podcasts talking about like, I just like the reason he says Firefest failed is just because he was like, I just mistook the magnitude of the issue and what I was planning, and he was saying like, I'm a very figure it out as you go type of guy, which I think is important in business. Like you do need to have some flexibility, but like you said right there,
you need a mix.
You need to have some plans, some backup plans, and have a little bit of foresight and pre-planning that you're doing. It's not just like yes, you are very adaptable, but you need to do some research first.
Yeah, well, that's a really good example, because I watched those documentaries and I never get anxious, like almost ever. I had the worst anxiety as a like a business owner and an event planner.
Right.
Watching that, every single thing before I even saw what happened in my brain, I was like, well, this is what's going to happen here. Like, what if you do that? And it happened. And that's exactly the thing you're saying. Like, I would have been like, all right, well, if we put this tent here, these are the 5 things we got to worry about. What do we do? And all those things would have been solved before they happened.
Right.
And we haven't really talked about conventions, running them and stuff like that. But like, I think that was the key to that. Like, we were able to start. We did a Comic-Con at the county center up here. We did the tattoo conventions. And we've done a bunch at this point. We've been doing conventions for like 10 years. And like, that was the key, because again, another thing where we didn't really have experience doing them, but as somebody that goes to them and seeing all the holes and fixing them, I was just like, all right, this is what I enjoy about going to do these things. These are the problems I see. If we do it here, this is what's going to go wrong potentially. What do we do to fix that? We did all that. And because we already thought of these things before they occurred, we were able to have, even year one, we had the smoothest thing ever. And arguably year one was the most complicated show we ever had, because we had bands playing upstairs. We had,
right.
We did this all in like 4 months, 5 months. It was crazy. I really don't know, again, how we did. I know I keep saying that, but like looking back, I'm just like, how did this work?
Right.
It's really crazy.
Well, it's the ability to plan. It's the ability to adapt and kind of meld those two things together in terms of.
I think that's it. I think that's the secret.
Yeah, you can't be one-sided where it's like a Billy McFarland type, where you're just like, I'm just really good at figuring out as I go, because you
exactly.
need that planning.
The other thing there too is like, if we fail, like I'm homeless. Like it's not like I had some investment money and some venture capitalist gave me $2 million and like it's gonna suck if we blow through it, but not my problem. I still get to go home. Like I think that's also the key. Like you have to have skin in the game.
That's an interesting point too, because I mentioned earlier like my business school experience with like things that they were saying. I went to school in the city, and it's very true what you're saying there in terms of like the whole business plan, or the whole breakdown of how they tried to describe a business was like, you just create a pitch deck and then you go pitch venture capitalists and they're going to give you $1 million. And if you get that, then you can just use that and you pay yourself and then you pay other people. And it's like, that's not the case for 99% of business owners.
Yeah. You're not learning how to do anything.
It's like, that is not how you run a business. And it's also not like you said, if you don't have skin in the game, it's not going to motivate you to actually run your business successfully. You're just at that point, you are just an employee.
Yeah, and you're not going to care. You're going to be like, oh, I'll deal with this tomorrow. Let me
Yeah.
go watch this show. It's like, no, like if I don't
Yeah.
stay up all night and fix this problem, I can't pay my rent. I can't eat tomorrow.
Right.
And as you get older, those situations exasperate. I can't speak today, but exacerbates.
Yeah.
You have a wife or your girlfriend. You have a house to pay for. You have a child that you need to feed. Like these are real world, but it's not just you anymore. So you really, really, really have to be involved in these things. Like it's no joke that they say you're one like catastrophe away from being homeless or something like that. But that's how most businesses are. If you hit a wall and there's no way out of it, like your whole world just crumbles. So it's not like I worked at, Best Buy and they went out of business, like it's not my problem. I'll go get a job somewhere else. Like, no, you're paying back these bills for the rest of your life. You have loans and taxes and like, you can't just declare bankruptcy. Like IRS doesn't give a shit, So it's really important.
Yeah. And I mean, we briefly just brought it up there before, but this is something I did want to get into. Obviously, I think it's kind of like the third iteration of your experience in business or your businesses that you have opened, the conventions, obviously. So when did you guys kind of determine it was time to do the convention? What were some of your inspirations for starting it, and how did you go about like just getting into that space?
Yeah, so I don't remember this exact specific.
It was the tattoo convention.
Tattoo conventions came first. Yeah, we didn't do the Comic-Con until maybe the third tattoo convention time. Right. So I think like there were other conventions, and it was just the same thing where we're like, well, we could do this. There's none around here, and we have this smaller but still convention center, like literally a few blocks from the shop, and we were like, all right, well, no one's doing it here, so let's do it. And let's do it, not better than other people, but like, let's see what stuff we would like to add to it.
Right.
And just like when we opened the tattoo shop and we were like, well, we don't want these sterile walls. Like, but let's put TVs in front of every station. Let's make this like inviting to, soccer moms and grandparents. And like, we were ahead of the game on that. I was like, well, I love going to concerts. I love music. Like, people that get tattoos also love these things. Like, let's have some bands play. Let's do this. And, I'm not saying nobody did that at any other shows, but now it's like pretty commonplace. And then it was like the exception, not the rule. Let's have, a more friendly environment. Let's have it open up to families. Like, let's have a little arcade and bouncy houses so people can bring their kids and the whole family can have fun. Not just like, bikers getting tattoos again. That was kind of our thinking, and we kind of did it, and it was a pooling of minds, because it was like Lou had some of the ideas initially. As a group, we then made a list of the things we wanted to do. Mikey had the experience in going to conventions and working at conventions, and what were some of the pitfalls as an artist, what would an artist like to see included that wasn't. And as a general con goer, I had a ton of experience of like what I like to see. So it was again, like any one of us wouldn't have probably been able to do it perfectly.
Right.
And we did it on short notice. I don't know how. We were learning as we went, because we didn't know like what you need, deposits and pipe and drape and running electrical and booking guests and all these things that we had no idea about, but we did it. I mean, we had like the Misfits play and Bayside play and Andrew WK play the first year, and like it was so many moving parts, and we did it, and I think that's really important, is having those different views, because like a tattoo shop's a perfect example. Traditionally, like they're just run by tattoo artists, and that's great. Artists, I can't draw a stick figure. I'm in awe of every artist that can draw and create something from scratch and do these beautiful things. A lot of them, though, struggle with the business side of things, right. Whether it's, paying taxes or how to structure a business, keeping the lights on. They're not big on, they want to concentrate on the art and making things. That's how their brain works. They don't want to be talking to people and scheduling appointments or answering phone calls or emails. So I think that was one of our strengths, is that we had both of it. A lot of tattooers look down on shops that are owned by non-tattoo artists. Mm-hmm. And I say, it's a strength.
Yeah.
Because you're able to have somebody that sees these things from the general public's eye, even down to stuff you wouldn't think about, like when they're posting their work, they're more concerned with, and I understand why. I'm not saying this is a negative, like, well, this tattoo I post has these intricate line work and these color blends and blah blah blah, where another tattoo artist will look at that and go, wow, that's some really good work, but the general public is like, all right, whatever,
Yeah.
but then they'll see this little tattoo. I joke all the time, like I have other artists that worked at the shop or friends that have these crazy intricate tattoos by like the best artists in the world, some of them, and we'll go walking through the mall and nobody even bats an eye at it, but I have a Powerpuff Girl tattoo
Right.
and everybody's like, oh my god, you have bubbles, you have Stitch, because that's what they want to see.
Right.
So that's the view you need when advertising the shop. You can have all the crazy, amazing work possible, but like the general public's not going to respond to that. You need to give them what they want. They want anime characters and they want that. Now, the quality work is obviously very important. It's the backbone of the thing. But that mix, once again,
Exactly.
is important. And those different mindsets.
Yeah, and I think just to your point about like non-tattoo artists owning tattoo shops, there's as with anything, like there's a spectrum of people. Obviously, I agree with the artist that's like talking about the tattoo owner or the shop owner that doesn't tattoo and is trying to tell you creatively like what to do or
Yeah.
technically what to
Well,
do.
no, that's really important. Yeah.
That's
that shouldn't
that's
happen.
not good. But I think you've done a really good job in your business of letting the artists be artists and do what they want to do and feel is right. And then also just kind of running the business so that they are in a position where they can just kind of focus on the art, like you said.
Yeah, and I think key is that Mikey and Cash were also artists, and they're also owners, and they came in, so I can ask them and take their opinion into account on a lot of these things, and so I don't think I agree with them that like I shouldn't own a tattoo shop by myself if I didn't have them,
Right.
and this is how it started because Mikey and Cash were working at a shop where somebody who didn't tattoo owned a shop, and it was just like, I want to make more money. I don't give a shit what the quality is. I don't, so that's ultimately what ends up happening. So I do understand that mindset, but I think when you can blend it like we did, and yeah, I think it's important. You got to let the artists do what artists do, and create these amazing works of art and do whatever. But you also have to understand how their brains work, because I think a lot of business minded people would get very frustrated in that environment because it is hard, because you need to run a business at the end of the day and you need to keep the lights on, and they don't necessarily look at it that way sometimes, and it is
Right.
kind of like a budding of different mindsets,
Right.
but you need that budding of mindsets to be successful in the world, I think.
Yeah, you need different perspectives because ultimately like that is what's going to get you like the best results.
Yeah.
I've said it before, but that's the reason why I wanted to start this podcast is just bring on different perspectives, get different points of view from people like Raphael in the what was it, the second episode.
Mhm.
He was somebody who is very pro like private studio, but at the same time having you on here who can bring that other perspective of, well, while that might be okay and that's good for him, there's also a litany of other things that you do gain as benefits when you're working within a shop where you're no longer having to worry about your own like business goings. You can just do the art and focus on the art. There's
Yeah,
so like just
again,
having those perspectives
different
is
strokes
important.
for different
Yeah.
folks, as they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that are you going to pay insurance every month? Are you going to, not even just insurance on the shop, insurance on the tattoos? If you mess something up, or if somebody thinks you messed something up and they want to
Mhm.
sue you, now you're liable. Are you going to pay the taxes? Are you going to, keep the
Right.
shop clean? Have somebody answering the phone, answering your email? There's so much that goes into this, and but like I will never, ever, ever, ever tell somebody like, hey, you got to hurry that tattoo up, or you need to do more tattoos. I know you did 3 today. You better fucking do this one. No, that's something I've never done, even to my own detriment. Like there's months where like, hey, maybe we're a couple $1,000s behind on the bills, and doing an extra tattoo would really help a lot. But I would never, ever, ever, ever do that.
Right.
And and the artists don't see that aspect. They don't know that I'm downstairs trying to figure out like, all right, well, the Con Ed bill, excuse me, is through the roof this month. Like, let me figure out how to pay it. And then they're like, hey, I got to leave early today. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Where most business owners would be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And that's where it gets hard. So
Yeah, you
it's a
got to
balancing
balance.
act.
Yep, definitely. What I've asked this to everybody so far, but I would like to
Sure.
see what you say to this. What do you think your biggest mistake in business has been up to this point?
um, that's a really hard question. I don't know if I have like some monumental mistake that like haunts me or something. Like
Right.
it's just lots of little ones, but like you learn from them. I don't know. I think like the only mistake that if I had to go back in time and tell myself is just make sure, and this is not like a slight on anyone that I work with, but like just make sure, like I said earlier, the people you're working with are gonna have the same mindset and like drive as you and tenacity.
Right.
Because it really does make things fall harder on you. And you know, I guess I don't mind doing that or, sometimes like becoming the face of a business or something like that. But at the same time, it's nice if that's spread out a little more.
Yeah.
So I guess that, or, not letting those things build up. I guess it's not a regret because I don't regret the people I work with whatsoever. But like sometimes like you let it slide a little bit, like, all right, like if this person's leaving early, I'll do double the work and just get it done.
Right.
It's fine, whatever. But over time, those little things build up, build up, build up. Before you know it, like you're holding a boulder, and the other person is just kind of like chilling sometimes. So those are the little things that I think I would say if I had to like go back in time. But other than that, I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't have any big regrets, luckily. So I wish I had like some crazy story to tell you.
No, yeah. I mean, I usually ask for like biggest mistake just because sometimes it is something that other people will, experience or something they could even look out for. So I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, that's
Just
something to
just
look
like
out for. Yeah, I
making sure you
I
have the right
guess
partners
yeah.
and I would say also just to add to that, making sure you're consistently communicating with your partners and reaffirming that
Oh
you're
yeah, I will
in the
say
same
that
spot.
I've had a lot of experiences in this world where like you'll let something bubble up inside for years, and on both sides, other people will do it too, and like it'll turn into this whole like unspoken thing, and like not resentment, but like you know, it just makes things.
It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, there's a big elephant in the room, and this could go on for 6 months, a year, blah blah blah, and then finally it comes to a head. You sit down for an hour and you hash it out, and it's like nothing, and it's over.
Right.
And like you had all this stress and like getting upset in your head and like blah 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 for nothing. So that is a very very key thing. If stuff starts to become an issue, even for a second, just hash it out immediately, squash it.
Right.
It'll make your life so much better in this world. And like there's so much to worry about already in the business world, and you don't need to add to it and have something else taken away, or distracting you from the goal. And you guys should all be, if you're succeeding, you should all be succeeding, so it's just silly to have infighting or in stress.
Got to communicate.
Yeah, very important.
Great. All right, and then the last question that I ask everybody: in 10 years, what's your vision? Like, if you could have, no obstacles. Obviously, that will never be the case. But like in 10 years, what's your goal for the businesses and for
Sure.
yourself personally?
I guess I would like to not have to worry as much. Like you said, there's always going to be some worry. I would like things to be a little more autopilot-ish, so I can finally maybe like enjoy the fruits of the labor, and everybody else as well. I guess I would like to see just bigger and better. I'd like to see the conventions come back strong post-pandemic. I would like to see, especially with Undiscovered Realm, I think we have a lot of potential, and we've only ever been handcuffed by budget and funding. I think we could really be a major player in that world more than we are now, and expand a lot, both online and in person. So I just like to see more of the same, but maybe a little smoother. I have a son now. I'd like to see him involved in some way. I don't want to put it on him, assuming that's something that he's into, but teaching him the ropes and showing him that, learn from the mistakes that I've made and be able to give him a roadmap, but not just be like, here's a business, like I think he needs to learn, those things as well. So yeah, I guess just being able to look back and seeing what we built, and, hopefully it not having fires all the time.
Awesome. Yeah. So just if you want, about, I think, where we are for
Mhm.
today. Obviously, I think we could talk for hours about
Yeah, there's a lot
other
of stuff we didn't
stories.
even go
And
into.
yeah, we'll
Well,
definitely
maybe
have to
next
do it
time.
again. We'll definitely have to do it again. But for now, if you want to just leave everybody, tell them how they can reach you, your businesses, any plugs for any.
Yeah, sure. So if you can follow us, we're on everything. At Addicted to Inc. NY, like New York, on Instagram, at Undiscovered Realm on Instagram, undiscoveredrealm.com, and Addicted to Ink Tattoos, plural.com. You can find everything you need to know. If you're into collectibles or tattoos or anything like that, check us out for sure. And we're at conventions all around the country. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining the show. All right, bye everybody.